Dust is an indie darling for a reason. Despite being another game in a sea of genre-specific Metroidvania titles, Dust sets itself apart by having a very distinct art style, some heavy polish, and slick combat action that sets it on par with any decent Platinum game hack-and-slash title. On top of that flash and challenge is a pretty decent story to keep you invested, and the game comes recommended to anyone who hasn't taken this gem for a spin yet. That's not all you want to hear, is it? I don't think I'm going to bother going into every aspect of this story, but if you're looking to go in fresh, it's time to bow out. Otherwise, let's get into this long overdue request review. Sorry about that, Nate. I heard about this game every now and again years ago, but I'd never really bothered to play the game until Grindstone member and patron Nate decided to get it for me so I would finally play it. I probably took a while, but I did stream it, completed it, and then I just moved on. It's good, but it's not something I was looking to commit my time to perfecting. Later on, when I was subscribed to the now-defunct IndieBox subscription service, one of the games that came up for the month was Dust: An Elysian Tale. While I already had the game, and so did Nate, it was enough for him to start subscribing to that service as well. Now even more years later, and Nate sets it as his first and only requested review for IndieStop, and it's time for me to play through it a third time. So yeah, one of us is a little more into the game than the other. Despite how often I mention it in the Icy review, I still think it's a worthwhile play for the price. This is a pretty distinct art style with plenty of Anthro characters. As if that wasn't given away by the title Dust: An Elysian Tale, the spelling of that final word in full compliance with Article 5, Section 3 of the Furry bylaws, animal people galore with Dust himself being some kind of fox-like human, and there's plenty of rabbit and mouse people to go with the ensemble. There's other creatures as well, taking on lizard-like appearances and some kind of walking potato. But all of the people in this game aren't fully human, but they're still very anime-inspired. The look carries even further over to the sprites, using hand-drawn live 2D animated sprites that seem to piss a lot of people off lately, but still look pretty good for a game developed by so few people with such a modest budget. Combat, even with this particular art style, has a lot of flash to it. Even if you were to include the complete mess of effects and particles that you'll spawn into the fray, I've never really had a single issue keeping track of Dust himself, especially with the complementary and high-contrast color scheme of Dust's vivid teal and Fidget's bright orange. The game runs really well, too, just ignore this choppy footage. Basically, I recorded several hours worth of stuff for this game ages ago, right before I noticed that an update on my computer somehow reset the recording software to run off my CPU, and it didn't go well, and I am not about to record all of this again. The overall aesthetic being very anime-inspired, with tropes abound, it's a mix of Eastern and medieval elements, with story beats and dialogue that'll bring around even more of that anime feel. A personal favorite touch is how character dialogue portraits will face the direction that they are on the field when you initiate a conversation. If you approach a character from the left, Dust will appear on the left. If you approach from the right, Dust's on the right. It's just one of those subtle details that they didn't have to program in, but they took the time to do it, and it's kind of appreciated. Dialogue scenes also have full voice acting, no matter how minor the character. If they have dialogue, it will be voice acted. And I'll take the stance in saying that it's pretty good. There's a lot of indie game voice acting vets here, some of whom have even moved into the anime industry in the time since. Say what you will, I find a lot of these line reads appropriately emoted when they need to be, and Dust, while usually playing up the stoic warrior role, is not afraid to joke around, be sarcastic, get angry, or upset by the things he's told. It's solid all around. You'd also expect Fidget to become grating, and while I could see some people getting annoyed with her high-pitched voice, and many fourth wall breaks, she becomes an endearing character a lot faster than you would expect, with some of the funniest lines in the game.
Ah! Monsters!
Calm yourself, Fidget. Dust. Focus. Remember what you've learned thus far.
No! Mash the buttons! Do something!
Ginger is a clearly very withdrawn girl, a survivor of a raid that destroyed her village, and has the smoothest, most alluring and hypnotic voice I have heard from anyone. If you're familiar with Belly LaPron from Honey Pop, you'll know the voice of Amberly Connors. If I ever end up as a furry, you can probably blame this character.
Dust? Really?
Is something wrong?
No, I'm sorry. It's just an interesting name. I'm Ginger. Oh, and about those people you saved.
Yes?
Well, that was a noble thing to do. so thank you.
Okay, you know what? I just need a different face for this voice. Just because someone has an intriguing voice doesn't mean that they're going to look like what you'd expect. I mean, case in point, I'll just look up Amber Lee Connors and see what she looks like. It's not like she's going to be an adorable, attractive redhead in real life, and god damn it! This is the kind of soundtrack that knows exactly what it's doing. The boss themes and action set pieces are intense and amazing, featuring hard rock and heavy orchestrations, all very fitting of the mood that's required for that moment. Sound, on the other hand, can be completely overwhelming cacophony of effects, reflecting the chaos of battle, but it's easily capable of drowning out that music completely. Even the combo meter has its own musical sting of rising notes as you pile on the hits. Combos, of course, being the nature of the combat. A successful combo will increase the amount of experience you gain as you gain higher numbers of hits. The longer that combo chain goes, the more of a bonus to your experience you'll get once combat ends. Take a hit or take too long between hits and that counter will go right back to zero. While swordplay is the most basic way to rack up your combos, as there's plenty of approaches to combat using light and heavy attacks, aerial maneuvers, and dodging and parrying mechanics, the best way to deal out combos is to do low damage, high output attacks with the magic system, as the magic system will help make the combo counter and your particle count really shoot for the moon. Basically, Fidget has the ability to use magic, but she's kind of bad at it. But combining it with Dust's sword-spinning skill, it disperses the particles tossed out by Fidget, turning them into screen-swarming forces of destruction. Yeah, calling this the Dust Storm is a little on the nose, but they could have just as easily called it the Fidget Spinner. Oh, no, come on, it was a good joke, oh, come on, no, dude, no, come on, That's fair. Battles tend to drop a good lot of loot, standard coin currencies, and even monster parts, which come into play into a crafting system that's used later on. Once you come across the blacksmith, you can visit her to construct items from any blueprints you've created, as long as you have the parts for them. You can even sell these parts to the merchants that you'll find across the map. Selling a new item at least one time will allow you to buy it later, so even if it's something that might be super hard to find, you might be best selling off the first one you find to ensure that you always can buy more if you need one later on, instead of just having to hope another one drops while you're grinding for it. The game is separated by areas and chapters, but still has slightly open maps in each area, using a Metroidvania-style layout and even locking away parts of each map until you've obtained a certain movement skill. Once you're finished with an area, you can re-enter it at any time. The maps of each area aren't super helpful, and each sub-area is represented by a single square of an exactly same size, but that doesn't really reflect exactly how large that sub-area can be, and it makes navigation a little bit harder than it should be, but you should rarely get lost. Lost, of course, are the memories of your main character, waking up alone in a meadow. Suddenly, a massive ornate sword comes floating towards you, talks to you, tells you its name is Aura, and that your name is Dust. You're then accosted by a squeaky-voiced flying orange squirrel bat hybrid named Fidget that insists that the sword belongs to her and will follow you around for it. The lost memories or amnesia angle is an admittedly tired trope, but the reasoning behind it and Dust's overt willingness to comply with all of this weird shit being dumped on him immediately upon waking up, instead of the standard constant who am I brooding, it makes this feel a lot less trite. Having such distinct clashing personalities works very well for character dynamics. Dust's perpetual confusion, Aura's cryptic information, Fidget's high energy and unfiltered emotion, and Ginger's warm yet aloof attitude all mixed together for some hilarious and even heart-wrenching conversations. Other characters have their own charm as well, and there's plenty of people to care about, provided you're not completely apathetic to the plight of cartoon rabbit and potato people. I'm pretty sure there's at least a few lines that you can recite that would provoke a reaction from any Dust fan. But we got the water running. Oh, god damn it. The game can be dark despite the colorful nature, with plenty of bosses having tragic stories of their own. Even the final boss, who's unquestionably a genocidal maniac, seems to have a lot of emotion behind his actions, and genuinely seems hurt and concerned by the actions of someone that he still believes is a friend. Even the reveal of who Dust is has a massive, if not slightly confusing impact, getting an understandably strong reaction from Ginger upon the reveal. I don't really want to spoil it, as it's the main intrigue of the game, and clues are cleverly sprinkled in throughout the narrative. It's very much worth experiencing for yourself. If there's any problem I have in the game, it's the pacing. I mean, it starts out pretty strong and amps up fairly well, but later stages seem to kind of drag on longer and longer. The biggest offense coming from one of the last areas you'll have to take on. a massive haunted forest with multiple branching paths, and 4 separate haunted houses that you need to locate an item in each one, while being chased by a giant ghost skeleton that you won't get to fight until you collect all 4 items and return to the middle of the map. It just seems like a padding time sink to a game that already has a robust level of content, but it's not like it ruins the game as a whole. There's also plenty of difficulty modes to try if you're very into the game. Even though I don't find myself needing to play it all that much after finishing it, I'll still occasionally come back and pay it a visit. Overall, Dust and Elysian Tale deserves its spot as an indie darling, with its tight action, intriguing story, solid visuals, and sound work. It's unquestionably something that you should experience for yourself, even if you have the slightest interest in checking it out. With that being completely obvious now, Dust earns its Go rating from me. There's nothing holding me back from suggesting that you give it a shot yourself, unless you got a problem with the art of the gameplay style, in which case there's really not much I can do about that. It's a commanding effort and a solid, impressive indie title. I do appreciate you making the stop today, and I hope to see you on the next one. Yeah, whenever that is, am I right? I'm not making excuses. I really just did not feel like making videos for a good while, and I kinda still don't. But I do owe this video to Nate, and I kinda need to get back to something, despite this crumbling hellscape of a website. I stream a lot still. You can go to twitch.tv/chaosd1 if you want to check those out, and you need to convince someone I haven't completely vanished from the internet. My Twitter @chaosd1 is another good place to at least occasionally hear from me, see random shitposts, retweets, and life rants notwithstanding. There's also @IndieStop, that's Indie with a 1 as the second I if you only care about show updates, and if you want to get a constant stream notification, and probably a little else. Also, a massive thanks to my patrons who still inexplicably support me despite only posting an occasional side quest video for these past few months. Special shoutouts, of course, go to Neander, Kaizme, Sonic Rose, and A. Smith for sticking around this long for that much at this level. And another thanks to Nate McPherson for sponsoring this episode directly with his suggestion. As for the people who keep asking me when the next MMO grinder will be, that's adorable. No, that wasn't a clue. I thought you'd all figured this one out by now. It's been like a year. Come on already.